Hey yo, I'm back with another video, and today I want to talk about UFC Shanghai. Johnny Walker is going to fight against Mingyang Zhang. Mingyang Mingyang Zhang. I forget his name all the time, but this is actually going to be a really good fight because I don't think this is going to be a good fight in any way, but I do feel the UFC is basically setting up Johnny Walker to get knocked out by uh, Mingyang in the first round. That is what the UFC is trying to do. They just want to make a spectacle of Johnny Walker getting knocked out. But apart from that, there are some really good fights. Brian Ortega and Aljamain Sterling are fighting. This will be a really good grappling matchup. Pavlovich is fighting against Costa, which is not exactly a great fight. And apart from that, I don't see that many good fights in the card. But still, I'll do a prediction for almost all the fights in here, even though I do not know 80% of the fighters in here, probably. But still, I'll try my best to make a prediction video. The first fight. Let's start with this one. This is in the heavyweight division. Dr. Kozai is going to fight against Gran Sabaldie, the gorilla. One is from Kazakhstan, the other is from Kyrgyzstan. So I'm going to say that this is probably like a 50-50 situation for both of them to get a win. And I do not know who is going to win in this situation because they are both heavyweight fighters from the Caucasus region, from like former Soviet unions. And I genuinely do not know who's going to win in between these. They both seem similar to me. I think they probably have similar style. This guy is a favorite. That is, Sadboldiev is a favorite, and Dr. is the underdog. And I just don't know who's going to win. Just pick your own winner. Long Xiao is going to fight against Su Yambu. I remember watching Su Yano his last year reporting the road to UFC. I think after that, he had another win against AJ Cunningham. That was a decision win. Prior to that, he won a decision win in his UFC. That is the road to UFC series. Like in that entire road to UFC tournament, he had decision wins. So if a fighter wins multiple decisions, I think he is definitely a good fighter because it is not easy to win multiple decisions. And you do not win decisions by luck. You can win a knockout. You can have a knockout by luck. You can have a submission by luck. But a decision is not luck. A decision is discipline. A decision involves a lot of good, I would say, skill set. So I'm going to go with Su Young, win this one by a unanimous decision against Long Xiao. I did not know anything about Long Xiao. He is 27 years old, but he has had 36 fights in his career. Crazy fights. But yeah, I'm not going to go with him to win this one. I'm going to go with Su Yanlu to win this one by unanimous decision. Let's move on. Ija is going to fight against Wesley Wilson. I do not know anything about these two fighters. Honestly, Ija is a heavy favorite. He's a minus 1500 favorite, which is significant favorite over this guy who is 775 underdog. I do not know anything about, but this guy is 6'1". And Isa is 5'7". Interesting. I do not know anything about these two fighters, so I'm not going to pick a winner. Michelle Pereira is going to fight against Kyle Dawkins. I'm going to go with Michelle Pereira to win this one, probably by a knockout. Because Kyle Dawkins is shit. Kyle Dawkins is shit. He has only lost to Anthony Hernandez and Abus Magomedov. Anthony Hernandez currently is looking like a number one contender. Most probably in future, he might be the number one contender for the middleweight championship. So losing to him is no shame, and Abus Magomedov is a good fighter as well. Kyle Dawkins is shit. I haven't seen this guy do anything. Yeah, he hasn't fought in UFC in a long time. His last UFC fight was against Eric Onders back in 2022. He lost that fight by ground and pound. And after that, he left UFC and he's done a lot of grappling. So I'm going to pick Michelle Pereira to win this one by a knockout. Let's move on. Rong Zhu is going to fight against Austin Hubbard. Rong Zhu recently defeated a prospect, somebody from the B team. That is someone who's training with Craig Jones. Yeah, Cody Steele, this guy. He's like a current teammate of Craig Jones and Nicky Ryan. And who else was there? Like they have a lot of that entire B team jiu-jitsu. He was basically from that B team jiu-jitsu, but it didn't work out well for him in UFC. So I'm going to go with Round 2 to win this one against Austin Hubbard, because Austin Hubbard is on a 2-fight losing streak. Also, this fight is going to take place in the Shanghai, so I think round 2 will have the move down advantage. I think he will also be more acclimatized to the primate. So I'm going to go with round 2 to win this one by probably unanimous decision. This is actually an interesting fight. Loner Kaukana, who's only 26 years old, who's fairly young, to be honest, is going to fight against Charles Johnson, who defeated Joshua Van. And for all of us, I'm fairly certain if you're watching this video, then you do know who Joshua Van is. So, if a fighter has defeated Joshua Van, and not just defeated, he knocked him out clean. To knock out Joshua Van, you need a lot of skill. So, Charles Anthony Johnson definitely has skills. But it will be interesting to see if his luck is on his side. Because look at his report. He has lost to Ode Oswald, Cody Durden, and Rafael Esteban. All three of them are like really bad fighters. They're not exactly high caliber fighters. Esteban to a certain degree, but Osborne and Durden are not exactly high caliber fighters. Of course, Mokaev is a high caliber fighter, but he has lost to some really low level fighters, and then he defeated Azat Maksum, Jack Headley, Joshua Van, who is going to fight Alexander Pantoja for the flyweight belt. And then there is Sumadarchi. He lost to Ramazan Temra. So, Charles Johnson can actually put off an upset. I think he is going to be underdog in this fight. Is he an underdog? Which is weird because Loner Kavanagh has not really proved himself in the highest of the division. Like, he hasn't really defeated somebody who is a great fighter. Like, he defeated Felipe Dos Santos. He has defeated Jose Ochoa. Those are his 2 wins in UFC. Those are good wins, but those are not exactly defeating someone like Joshua Van or fighting against Mohamed Mokaev. Like, those are really championship caliber fighters. But these 2, Dos Santos and Jose Ochoa, are not exactly that high caliber fighters. So I'm not exactly super sold on Loner Kavanagh. So I'm going to go with Charles Johnson to win this one, probably by a unanimous decision or maybe a 3rd round TKO. I'm just not sold on Loner Kavanagh. Even though I think he might get this win, I will be happy if Loner Kavanagh wins because we need more young fighters that wins and we need more young prospects in the flyweight division. Because the flyweight division was lacking a lot of character, and then Joshua Van came in and went on this crazy 4-5-5-5 winning streak. So we need someone like Loner Kavanagh to give him some competition. But he has had only 9 fights his entire career, and Charles Johnson has had 24 fights and 17 wins and 7 losses. That's a lot of wins. That's also a lot of experience. So I'm going to go with the person who has more experience, that is Charles Johnson. I think he's going to win this one, probably by an unanimous decision. Ilia Topuria is, by the way, very high on Loner Kavanagh. So I hope that Loner Kavanagh wins, but I'm going to pick Charles Johnson to win this one by unanimous decision. There are a lot of prelims fights. Let's go. Mahashe Aite. I do not know the full name of this guy. He lost his last fight and he's going to fight. I just don't care. I just do not care. Sumadarji versus Kevin Porras. I'm going to go with Kevin Porras to win this one by unanimous decision. I think so. Sumadarji has lost 3 of his last 4. He won his last fight against Mitch Rapso, lost to Charles Johnson, lost to Tim Elliott, lost to Matt Schnell. He got choked out by Matt Schnell. That is not exactly good for your career. That is not a good loss to have. Kevin Porras, he lost to Alexandre Posta and Joshua Van. I mean, losing to Joshua Van is not exactly a bad look at this point of time because Van is going to fight for the belt. And he lost to Alexandre Costa. That is not exactly great. But apart from that, he defeated Ronaldo Rodriguez. Ronaldo Rodriguez was supposed to be this prospect from Mexico, but he didn't do well. Still, I'm going to go with Kevin Porras to win this one by probably unanimous decision. But Sumadarji is going to be significantly bigger than him. But still, I'm going to go with Porras. Sergey Babuevich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Waldo Cortez Acosta is probably on a 6-fight winning streak. Is he? 5 fights winning streak. His last loss was against Marcos Rosario de Lima. He has defeated Lucas Brzezinski, Andrei Arlovsky, Robales Despain, Brian Spann, and Sergey Spivak. Those are 5 wins, not exactly solid wins, but those are good wins to have in your career. Not exactly good, but those are like decent wins to have in your career because the heavyweight division in UFC is pretty shit. It is pretty bad. Probably the most boring division in some manner. But the good thing about the heavyweight division is that we get knockouts. That's the only good thing. He's going to fight against Sergey Pavlovich. Pavlovich, I think his last two losses were against Alexander Volkov and, of course, the current heavyweight champion, Dom Aspinall. He defeated Jairzinho Rosenstruik by an unanimous decision. Prior to that, defeated Curtis Blades, Tyson Vasa, Derek Lewis, Shamil Abdur Rakhimov, Maurice Green, Marcelo Holm, and then he lost to Alistair Overeem, the Ubery. But that was back in 2018. That he went on a really good winning streak, lost to Volkov and Tom Aspinall, and then Jairzinho went. I'm going to go with Sergey Pavlovich to win this one, probably by an unanimous decision or maybe a knockout. I just do not see somebody like Costa having the skills to defeat somebody like Pavlovich. Because Costa is not really a high-caliber fighter. I do not consider him a high-caliber fighter. And Pavlovich, at this point of time, has more experience. He has fought the best of the best in the heavyweight division. Arguably fought the most talented heavyweight fighter of all time in Tom Aspinall. Lost to him. Fought against Volkov, who is also a very talented fighter. So I'm going to go with Sergey Pavlovich to win this one, probably by a knockout or maybe a unanimous decision. So let's go. Let's move. Co-main event. The co-main event actually looks really, really good. What I mean by that is former UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling, who is known as the backpack, who's infamous for his backpack and famous for his grappling, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling. He's going to fight against another good grappler, another good jiu-jitsu practitioner, Brian Ortega, who is trained by, what was his, not guest, another Gracie, basically he's from Gracie clan. Also, ever since he has moved out to the featherweight division, has been looking good. Like, he hasn't looked bad in featherweight division. His only loss in featherweight has been against Movsar Evloev. Now, Movsar Evloev is actually a really good fighter, arguably the number one ranked featherweight fighter right now, apart from, like, of course, Volkanovski. But I don't think they're going to give Evloev the title shot because he has pulled out. I think they're going to give the title shot to Leron Murphy, which I believe he deserves it at this point of time. He defeated Calvin Kattar, basically dominated Calvin Kattar with his grappling. And he has Barab to train with. His training partner is Barab. If you can handle the grappling of Barab, then definitely you can handle the grappling of Brian Ortega. And Brian Ortega at this point is 34. He has had multiple losses, only 4 losses in his career. But he lost 2 back-to-back fight against Alexander Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez, but that was an injury. But he did defeat Yair Rodriguez by submission. That goes to show that Yair is shit. He lost to Diego Lopez. Again, Diego Lopez did phenomenal in that fight. Diego Lopez could have knocked him out and finished him, but Diego just decided he wanted to grapple with Ortega for some reason. I do not know why he wanted to grapple, but because he wanted to show that he is a good grappler, which he is. He's actually a decent grappler. But I think Aljamain Sterling is going to be physically bigger than Brian Ortega. I don't think he's going to be physically bigger, but I think he is going to have the physical advantage over Brian Ortega. Also, Sterling himself is a really good grappler. No doubt in my mind that Brian Ortega is really good grappler, but he is a jiu-jitsu grappler, whereas Aljamain Sterling has both jiu-jitsu and wrestling in his pedigree. He's a better wrestler. I think Ortega might have good boxing, better boxing than Sterling. But I think Sterling, his wrestling is decent enough. His striking is decent enough to put it on his feet. But I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling to win this one, probably by an unanimous decision. I think this fight will be an interesting fight because they are both good grapplers. Striking, they're both going to strike in there. And most probably, Sterling will try to take the fight to the crowd and probably backpack Brian Ortega. It will be interesting if Sterling can choke out TCD. And TCD is most probably going to be the underdog. Yeah, he's an underdog. I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling to win this one by unanimous decision. I think that is going to be my pick. All right, let's move on to the main event. Well, this main event is definitely, it feels like a setup. The fighter in Mingyang, that is Zhang Mingyang, he is the only fighter in the UFC to have like 18 or 19 first round finishes. Right? He has like crazy first round finishes. All his fights are round 1 finishes. Look, this guy has never seen a round 2. Like, all his wins have come around in round 1. Yes, he's probably on a 12-fight winning streak, right? Yeah, he's on a 12-fight winning streak. He has knocked out the Ozzy Diaz, Anthony Smith, and Branson Ribeiro. Again, 2 Kotakus. I'm not going to say that these fighters, Ozzy Diaz, Branson Ribeiro, Anthony Smith, they're like top of the world fighter. Like, they're not the best of the best in the light heavyweight division, but still, they're like UFC caliber fighters. Anthony Smith is a difficult fighter to finish, but Mingyang somehow found a way to finish it in the first round. And he's only 27 years old. He has a lot of confidence, and considering the fact that he's going to be fighting in Shanghai, he's going to have the fan base is definitely going to support him over somebody like Johnny Walker. Again, nothing against Johnny Walker. At one point of time, Johnny Walker was one of the most entertaining fighters out there. He was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the next big thing in UFC. Everyone was saying that he might be the one to defeat John Jones in the light heavyweight division, but we were so wrong. Johnny Walker has a glass chin. Like, this chin is really weak. Right now, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Of course, no contest against Magomed Ankalaev. Prior to that, he defeated Anthony Smith and Paul Bragg and Yep Putelaba. Got knocked out by Jamal Hill and Thiago Santos. Won against Ryan Spann. Lost to Nikita Krylov and Corey Anderson. Losing to both Nikita Krylov and Corey Anderson does not look good in 2025 because Krylov right now is getting knocked out back to back. He's only getting knocked out. I think he got knocked out in his last 2 fights. Corey Anderson got cut from UFC. Thiago Santos, I don't know what he's doing. Jamal Hill has not been looking really good, but of course, that's a good loss to have in your career. Win against Anthony Smith, Paul Craig, and Ian Cutelaba does not look that great right now, especially considering Paul Craig has been getting losses after losses. Anthony Smith, again, has retired, and he did lose to Magomed Ankalaev and Volkan Oezdemir. Oezdemir, again, not exactly a champion at this point of time, but Ankalaev is the current champion, so losing to Ankalaev is not a bad thing. Johnny Walker can actually pull off an upset, but then again, his chin is in question because Johnny Walker is someone who's going to go guns blazing. He has good grappling, according to his brother Walter Walker. But the problem with Johnny Walker is that he's going to strike with Mingyang, and Mingyang has a better chin compared to Johnny Walker, in my opinion. Johnny Walker has power, but he is like a glass cannon. If he gets touched on his chin by Mingyang, he's going to get knocked out. So I'm going to go with Zhang Mingyang to win the main event by a knockout in the very first round. I guess that is it from today's video. These are going to be my picks. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like, share this to your friends and family, and definitely subscribe to my channel. Alright, peace out.